I think, firstly, one should appreciate that AMCO has been vindicated. As you know, coming back from 2012, how AMCO was portrayed, how AMCO was vilified by media, of which you are a witness to that, even yourself. AMCO was called a vigilante trade union. AMCO was called a yellow union by the ACCP leaders, for instance, the Honorable Blayton Zimande. I mean, everything that is bad was always associated with AMCO. Even the media comes to our mass meeting. When we speak truth to the powers, what they did, they distorted the information. They don't broadcast what one has said, but they come with their own narrative. And you'll remember very well that in most of the cases, AMCO in the media was always labeled as a very notorious, or a union that is not responsive to workers' demand, a union that takes opportunity to grow itself for self-enrichment. This has come to fore now by the senior leaders of the state, of which people of South Africa, they know exactly that AMCO really is meant to represent the workers. So after we heard about the CIA issue, we did engage with the state to say, give us a proof that we are paid, we are in the payroll of the CIA. Even today, the former Minister of Intelligence, which is Mr. Mahlobo, nothing came forth from them. But today we know for sure that this was the state. And the question will be, have they desist from doing this? And the answer is no. I mean, all this threat of deregistration of AMCO, we had our Congress, but still the register himself, the advocating Mhlohonolo, if I'm pronouncing very well, is just behind AMCO out of all the unions. And he was conniving. We've got the records of him discussing how to destabilize AMCO. I'm talking about 2020. We've got records, which is before the court, that this department, this government, is highly after AMCO. For what good reason? Because we are not a threat to the ruling party. We are not a threat to any political formation in South Africa. We are only threat to the white monopoly capital. Our agenda is very clear. We are fighting for the emancipation of the workers, I mean, from this white monopoly capital. Why the state feel very strong that we are a threat to them? Why? That's a question.
Let me ask you then, Mr. Mathunjwa, about this union that was set up specifically to try and destabilize AMCU. Do you know about it? Did you come to know about it at some point? And what actually happened? What were some of the strange things, if you like, that started happening? And what were your thoughts when you ultimately discovered that there was a fictitious union that was established to try and, I guess, dethrone AMCU?
I mean, it was quite clear. It's not about the government acting alone. Even this white monopoly capital were part of the bigger agenda, because they wanted to preserve all these atrocities from 1800 through Chamber of Mine, how Black workers were exploited. So they wanted to preserve that heinous legacy that was faced by the Black majority of mine workers. So therefore, after we had this, was about, actually, they started trying to cause chaos within the AMCO. They started questioning the authenticity of AMCO, the illegibility of the leaders. Then we said, but after we fought so much, why at this point now there is an issue of eligible members and those that are not eligible? Then we went through. These guys were given cars, expensive cars, the Mercedes, the BMWs. The union overnight was registered, which it was very questionable. They had a full infrastructure. These guys, they had resources like you cannot believe. And then we picked up that there is something sinister around this. And it was quite clear that, all these things was done to protect, National Union of Mine Workers, because the workers have shifted the allegiance to AMCU because of what is known to you and to yourself. And then with one of the professors who was writing that the NUM leaders left the workers and leave them without, addressing their, the aspiration of their members. So therefore, those things, one cannot even deassociate that NUM was the main important element or what's name of the alliance, because in terms of the elections, it was easy. And AMCU came with a fresh air to say, we as AMCU, we don't care where our members goes, whether they want to go to DA, IFP, ANC, whatever political formation in South Africa is not our baby. Our baby is at the workplace. So then that it opened the floodgates for every political party to come and recruit and sell their ideas, to the workers. So I think that was a main cause that AMCU should be destabilized at all costs, because it's becoming a thorn in the flesh, of the ruling party, of which we were not threat to them, because our members, they are affiliated to any political party in South Africa. You've never had us lambasting any political party in our platform. Even we had platforms, but we've never lambasted anyone. But at the end of the day, it didn't end. You remember the strike at Gold at Sibanye. We reported to the state president, the sitting Honorable Babu Ramaphosa, that Sibanye Still Water under Neil Froneman is servicing the vehicle of the state, the SEPS vehicle. Why is the private sector servicing the state vehicle? And no one responded to those issues. This thing of SASA continuing to undermine AMCU and the rights on the freedom of association is still continuing even with the current administration. The deregistration of AMCU is still continuing. Even at the last month of last year, we were fueled with many letters of threat of deregistration of administration. If you can check at Department of Labor, how many unions are not complying? AMCU has never skipped even one single financial year for not submitting all its financial. I think we are the best amongst the many, in the country in terms of compliance, in terms of Labor Relations Act. But still the state is still after AMCU. Let
me get in there, because on that particular issue, I think the main accusation was that AMCU had not held an elective conference within a specified period for leadership to be, I guess, legitimate. I think that was one of the key accusations, and I think eventually you then held that particular elective conference. But let me also add to that, Mr. Mathunjwa, and ask you the question. There are those who are still of the firm belief that AMCU continues to be a union, if you like, that is mired in controversies such as, there is violence and some of its leaders continue to be killed. Are you of the view, or perhaps let me ask you straight up and say, how do you respond to those accusations that AMCU, though, despite all of what we know today, there are those who will still maintain that it is a union that is steeped in violence, and its recruitment strategies are those of forcing people to join it, otherwise you're going to get hurt. How do you respond to that?
There is no truth in that. I think you've been interviewing the former minister, Mr. Mfuma Hadi. When I say to you in my opening statement, AMCU has been vindicated. So what more should we say? Isn't that where the apparatus of the state? Isn't that it was put before the Deputy Justice Babu Zondo in his commission that some of the weapons, the guns, were issued not to enhance the the protection of SASAPA to do other business. What do you, what do you take on that? Huh? So as I've told you that AMCU is being vilified as a vigilant trade union. And the reason is why is because the state was sponsoring people who have to label AMCU and do things wrongly, and then AMCU will be blamed for that. You remember even with the commission, we were part of the commission, Falam Commission. After that commission, who was arrested from the state?
Yeah.
Huh? Did they find anyone, on the wrong side of the law with that commission? Your media, yourselves, even you were at that point, at the place where the workers were massacred. I even have an interview with you. Some of the recordings, when we requested from ENCA, there were no recordings, where NUM was ululating, happy when the workers were killed. Eh? So, those meetings that were held at Potchefstroom, where they ordered the van, the mortuary vans, they ordered, weapons. They discussed which kind of weapons they want to massacre. Then you want to come at this day and age and say AMCU is a violent union, even after this, revelation. Come on, man.
Mr. Mathunjwa, let me thank you very much. And I've got to tell you that indeed, those were the revelations at the Marikana Commission of Inquiry. And